Welcome to this edition of Under the Radar for Saturday, July 29th. And this week, I'll be asking some very simple questions, such as:
the fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. Do we have the confidence in our values to defend them at any cost? Do we have enough respect for our citizens to protect our borders? Do we have the desire and the courage to preserve our civilization in the face of those who would subvert and destroy it?
Now, I've just started reading Douglas Murray's The Strange Death of Europe, and from what I've read so far, the answers to the questions posed in Trump's Warsaw speech would appear to be probably not. And with that optimistic view, let's have a look at some indications of why that might be the case. NHS attended 9,000 female genital mutilation cases in England last year, report reveals. Now, that headline number is a little misleading because the 9,179 attendances where FGM was identified between April 2016 and March 2017 include females that have been identified before. The number of new cases was 5,391, which includes 114 girls under the age of 16. And so a lot of these cases happened obviously a long time ago and mostly before those people even came to the UK. And that's borne out by the following. While only 26% of women and girls involved in newly recorded cases reported the country in which the FGM took place, 1,229 of these cases took place in Africa, while 57 occurred in the UK. So if that were an accurate sample, then you're talking about at least 200 of those new cases having taken place in the UK. Now, what the Guardian article omits is that FGM has been illegal in the UK since 1985, but no one has ever been prosecuted for the crime in Britain. But whilst a couple of hundred females are subjected to FGM in the UK, as I reported last week, at least no one will be subjected to that hideously exclusionary phrase, ladies and gentlemen, at train stations. Or as we found out this week, the Wiltshire police will not stand for anyone mocking their pledge to crack down on online trolls or correcting their grammar for that matter. So I guess Rita Panahi and Jordan Peterson should think themselves lucky for not living in the UK. And since I don't live there either, I encourage you to pay a visit to the Wiltshire Police Twitter feed and voice your opinion on their policing efforts. And of course, what better place to go than Sweden to document the loss of Western values? Swedish shop refuses woman's service for not wearing hijab. A woman in Sweden claims that she was denied service at a local Somalian-owned shop because she was not wearing an Islamic headscarf, and remarked she felt like she was back in her home country of Iran. The woman, a well-known Swedish female rights activist named Suhaila Fors, said that she was out shopping for dresses and was shown some by the female retail clerk. Shortly after, a man whom Fors deduced to be the owner of the shop spoke with the clerk in Somalian about Fors and her lack of a hijab. The woman turned to me and said, "Unfortunately, you cannot buy it." "Imagine going to a store and not buying food and milk," I replied. "Sweden is a democracy," she replied, which is a little strange. The experience left Fors saying she felt she had returned to Iran's religious oppression. Fors left Iran in 1993 after being part of a movement against the Islamic government there. Since then, she's been outspoken on Islam and women's issues and has led her to face death threats from supporters of the Islamic State terror group. But, as you know, this has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. And luckily, the leader of the Swedish Feminist Initiative Party has identified the real problem. You see, it's not Islam, it's men. The leader of the Swedish Feminist Initiative Party has hit back at critical reports of a local Islamic school segregating children by gender, claiming the problems in migrant-populated no-go zones is not with Islam, but with men and racism. Feminist Initiative leader Victoria Kowesa hit out at critics of her party, claiming that children at a Muslim school being segregated on a school bus and in classes was a result of the patriarchy and not a problem originating from the religion of Islam. Well, she is a feminist, but this is a whole other level of stupid. Patriarchy exists in all religions, nationalities and skin colours. The common denominator is men's oppression and domination. There is a culture of racist policies that rather aggravates problems and prevents us from seeing the real causes of the oppression of patriarchy. Well, if that's the case, then this also must be because of the patriarchy. Swedish feminists flee suburbs due to Islamic fundamentalists. Oh, it's Islamic fundamentalists. No, that's just another name for the patriarchy. Feminists in Stockholm are leaving areas like the notorious migrant-heavy no-go zones of Husby and Tensta because they say religious fundamentalists now rule those suburbs. Nalin Pekal is a self-described feminist and former member of parliament for the left-wing Swedish Social Democrats. For over 30 years, she lived in the Stockholm suburb of Tensta, but says she no longer feels safe there. She claims Muslim fundamentalists have taken over, and she doesn't feel she can visit the centre of Tensta without being harassed. Zelia Duggley, who of course looks like that, a former left party politician, did end up moving from the no-go suburb of Husby. Duggley described Husby as having self-appointed morality police who attempt to control women's behaviour in the area. Duggley now lives in the inner city area of Stockholm and says she's happier that she can wear or say what she wants without fearing for her safety. She said she would consider returning to Husby, but only if the area becomes safer for her. And how would it become safer exactly? Would that entail reversing the refugee and immigration policy pushed by the proudly feminist Swedish government? And who's going to clean up the no-go zones, that horribly patriarchal police force? If you want to destroy your country, just let feminists call the shots. R.I.P. Sweden. Well, there is another way to deal with your potential migrant problems, and for that solution, let's go to Austria. Growing trend of older women becoming sugar mamas for young migrants. There is a growing trend in Austria of middle-aged or older women enticing young male asylum seekers with favours and money for sexual gratification and making the young migrant men dependent on them. Well, at least they're employed, even if it is as male hookers, but I wonder if they still get government benefits as well. Some migrants even complain that the older Austrian women want too much sex. An asylum seeker named Hassan told the Bieber magazine, "She wants sex with me 4 times a day. I'm a sex machine for her, nothing more." Hassan said he wouldn't leave the woman though because he had become accustomed to his new lifestyle. I bet he has. The 24-year-old Iraqi said the woman named Linda, not her real name, had approached him at a bar and offered to let him live with her. Hassan said Linda paid for everything he needed, including a €120 a month gym membership at an upscale gym in Vienna. Manfred Buchner of the Austrian Men's Health Centre said that the asylum seekers remain in these relationships because they become dependent on the women. There's great dependency, not only mentally, but also materially. Many of these men face homelessness. So they're victims, of course. Well, I don't know about this one. Maybe it's a good solution. Cat ladies can finally get laid, and if the migrants are getting some, then maybe they'll feel a little less rapey. And now for the cherry on top. Let's bring it home to Australia. Australian women need Muslims to fertilise them because their beer-swilling, drug-injecting men are incapable, leading Islamic businessmen's outrageous claims about shock fertility statistics. A leading Muslim businessman predicts Australia's white race will become extinct within 40 years because Australian men are too busy smoking, drinking beer and taking drugs to procreate. Halal certification boss Mohammed Al-Mouli told his Facebook followers Australian women need Muslim men to fertilise them and keep them surrounded by Muslim babies. So let's have a look at his Facebook post. According to the Hebrew University, Australian bigots' sperm count has declined by 52% over the last 40 years, so bigoted men are a dying breed. Australian women need Muslims to fertilise them and keep them surrounded by healthy brown Muslim babies, while beer-swilling, cigarette-smoking, drug-injecting bigots can only dream of what Muslim men are capable of. If the country is left to the bigots, the white race will be extinct in another 40 years. Muslims have a duty to make your women happy because you are declining. Better go choose a plot for yourselves at your local cemetery. If you can't afford it, commit suicide. It is a cheaper alternative for bigots. It will be mandatory for all women to wear hijabs or burqa if they prefer. Bikinis will be displayed in museums, but not on nubile bodies anymore. When that happens, everything in Australia will be halal certified. Bigots and pigs will be declared haram and must not be approached or touched. They can live together in reserves. There will be a halal butcher on every corner. All other butchers will be offered to convert to halal or given a passage back to where their ancestors came from. And it goes on, but I think you get the point. The only thing really missing here is a quote from a feminist agreeing with him. Now, Al-Muli claims he was just trying to stir some people up that had descended on his Facebook page using all manner of expletives and attacks possible, including promises of physical attacks. He went on to add that, last night, Faceless Book deleted the post, yet venomous messages devoid of any humour addressed to me about Islam remain published. You can see other messages from the bigots on other posts I have. So if this was just retaliation and a bit of shit-stirring, then I say, well trolled, Mr. Al-Muli, well trolled indeed. But I suspect some of the diatribe is at best a Freudian slip. But putting aside Al-Muli's fantasies of a caliphate, isn't he just extrapolating trends, some of which I've documented here? Plummeting sperm counts, falling birth rates, mass immigration leading to changing demographics, a loss of confidence and belief in Western values. I'd say Mr. Al-Muli's onto something. Or maybe I'm just reading too much Douglas Murray. So is it time to roll over and let the caliphate take hold with the aid of useful idiots like feminists and other regressives? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.